Hi, this is Digital Byte Computing. We're going to go through a range of different IT roles. These could be roles that you may be interested in going into. So we're going to touch on each one. There are many to go through, so let's go through them. As you know, my name is Emilio. I am an IT professional, or a so-called professional, if you like that term. And I work across a wide variety of IT departments and IT roles. And we're going to touch on a few of these roles. Most of them you may be familiar with. Hopefully you are. If you're not, hopefully this video does give you that information. You may be already in the IT industry and you may be curious as to what other roles are available. You may also just be studying or wanting to be in, you may be interested in getting into IT. So these roles will hopefully give you a bit more of an understanding of what's available and what you can go into. Help desk support. A lot of people will go into help desk support as a jumping into the IT industry. So a lot of people that are just graduated, they've maybe gone to university or TAFE or had some further qualifications, they want to get into the IT industry and don't know where to go. Starting in help desk is a good place to start. So we're looking at technical sort of support, a basic understanding of IT, what it sort of means, how to do some computer support, how to reset some passwords, how to do some basic technical support for your end users. A help desk person will generally start at a business, maybe on the phones, helping support of IT infrastructure, IT services, IT desktops and laptops, perhaps over iPhones and other phone devices, mobile devices, and just general help for an IT for a end user in a company. Things like perhaps installing software, resetting accounts, creating tickets in ticketing systems, things like that. Help desk is generally what you would consider a level 1 when we're talking about the support architecture. You've got level 1, 2, and 3. Help desk would be sort of your entry point at level 1. Desktop support. So we're looking at support analysts, desktop support analysts, desktop support, level 2 administrators. There's many terms that this can go by. Essentially, it is one step up from your help desk guys. So these are people that may actually be physically required to be out on the floor. A help desk person a lot of the time may be on the floor and may have limited IT knowledge. Once they advance in their IT knowledge, they can then go out and assist end users out on the floor, fixing their computers on the floor, installing software on the floor on their computers, getting their computers, doing technical fixes, opening up the computers, and things like that. A lot of desktop support guys may also have a little bit of involvement in the server fleet. So dealing with some server architecture, servers, logging in, configuring some stuff on some servers, remote desktoping, things like that of that nature. So essentially a desktop support is what you would call a level 2, level 1 being help desk, level 2 going into your desktop support and a bit more into your server architecture. From there you move into the engineer and administrator sphere. So this is what we would say is a level 3. These are the people that are a lot more technically savvy, so they've done a lot more training, a lot more study, and are a lot more advanced in their IT knowledge so that they can deal with a lot more complicated issues. We've got here a systems administrator, systems engineers, your network admins, network engineers, and all the little bits and pieces in between. So let's go through them each individually. Now, we're looking at the systems guys. You've got system admins, system engineers. These are people that will generally work across a range of IT systems, IT infrastructure systems, such as servers. So looking at building storage solutions, we're dealing with RAID, configuring servers, configuring, physically racking stuff in data centers, things like that. So a systems administrator, the way that I like to differentiate an engineer and an administrator is the administrator is responsible for just pushing the buttons and actually the infrastructure is already in place and they're just using that infrastructure, keeping it up to date, keeping it patched, doing what they need to do to make everything up and running. They may be responsible for building, VMs, virtual infrastructure servers. They may be responsible for replacing drives, dealing with backups, tape libraries, things like that. An engineer is probably one step just above an administrator, where they are more responsible now for the design of some of this stuff. So the VM guy, so someone that deals with administrating a VM, maybe just building it, while the engineer maybe designed what that VM may look like, where it's going to fit in your VMware architecture, designing your clusters in VMware or in Citrix or things like that. So the engineer is got to have a good understanding of the technology to be able to go and advise and perhaps set standards to certain protocols, to certain architecture. You want to set standards to your infrastructure as well. So administrator and engineer, again, those terms are interchangeable, but that's a brief difference between the two of them. The network guys are responsible for your network architecture. So brands like Cisco and Juniper, for example, we're talking about your switches, right? So your ports where you physically plug in all of your connectors, things like patch panels that go between your cross connects, between your cabinets, the patch panels on the walls, in meeting rooms and under each person's desk. That sort of sphere is looked after generally by a network admin or an engineer. Setting up routes on routers, routing traffic between subnets, setting up of VLANs, things of that nature. They can also have a hand within the firewall sphere, so maintaining their firewalls, setting up ports, allowing certain access to certain services. The network guy may have a good understanding of security. Now there are people that specialize in security, which could be like a security engineer, which is another terminology, but we'll encompass them all together under the network sphere. So people who are responsible for network, for security, for locking down ports, for making sure subnets are in place, that they're routable, that you've got different VLANs, and just making sure that the integrity of your network is secure. Then you've got guys that maintain your software and applications. So these are developers, software developers. These could be programmers, they could be software engineers, database administrators, database engineers. So programmers, as the name suggests, these are people who program. These are people who would write code, people who would create applications and services to present to the business that the business can use. These could be applications that you use in-house. Programs could also write things for external applications, external users, perhaps using the applications that they have written. So they're going to be using tools such as, programming languages such as Java, C++, and a few others that are out there as well. On top of your programmers, you've got your software engineers. So these could also be your applications, your system programmers, your software architects. Essentially, they're responsible for designing and programming the system level software. So one step above a programmer, the software engineer would be responsible for what's this going to look like? What is this program? What do we want it to do? What do we want this application, this program to function like? So they have to have a good understanding of how both the hardware and the software works to be able to fit the two pieces of the puzzle together, making sure that they work together. It's good if they have understanding about networking and things like firewall ports and what needs to be opened, so that when they're working with the programmers and the software guys, that they know what are the requirements to make the program or the application run over the network and talk to the internet if it needs to, and things of that nature. Within the software programming sphere, you've also got the web developers or the web designers. Terms are used interchangeably. And as the name suggests, these are people who look after the websites, anything to do with website architecture, website design, website strategy. Where is the website going to sit? People who are designing on the websites, understanding of HTML code, understanding of things like PHP, ASP.NET, dealing with tools such as Microsoft IIS and Apache, and setting up of web services within a server infrastructure. Web guys, web designers, web engineers could also look after the purchasing or the provisioning of domain names, going out to your third-party companies and retrieving domain names, registering those domain names, getting certificates on your on a trusted certificate authority for your HTTPS. If you want to have that domain name secure, you want to get a certificate applied to it. So a web guy could work in that. But you'll find that a lot of the web guys, especially when we're dealing with more of the architecture side of things and dealing with more of the technical, they may work closely with the software, the systems and the network engineers to try to get their system up and running. So web guys are important in the sense that they need to get their websites developed on the network, working, all the ports, everything open. They may also look at making recommendations towards their website needing to be within a DMZ zone, which is a demilitarized zone, so a more secure area on your network that is exposed out to the internet while the entire rest of the network is inside your network behind a firewall. Software testers, test analysts, test engineers, software QA or quality assurance. These are people who are responsible for the testing of the software. They want to make sure that the software is integral. They make sure that the software is good. So what could generally happen is once your software engineers or your programmers, your web designers, etc. have finished their work, it gets handed over to a team that are responsible for testing it, making sure that the quality is good enough before they go and deploy it and make it live. So a lot of developers and programmers may be working in a UAT or in a staging, a testing or a staging in sort of environment, and that will then get handed over to your testers who will test it in these environments before they are made live or put into a production environment. Making sure that the code is correct, making sure that all the aspects of the program, of the application, of the website are of good quality, that they are working, that there are no bugs, that they've got the latest patches, the latest fixes, that it's in a state where the customer, which would be our end user base or perhaps a customer external to your business, are in a place where they are happy and that they will not encounter problems with your applications. Then you've got your database admins as well. So the database admins could be responsible for things like your Microsoft SQL and Oracle and other MySQL, for example, and other database related software. A good understanding of your SQL commands, your CLI, your command line for all of your database commands as well. Making sure that the databases are in good working order. The data integrity is good, running regular maintenance, truncating old records, doing regular backups of their databases. Business analysts. So a business analyst, it's good for them to have a technical and a business mindset. Technical in the sense that they need to know what IT is doing, they need to understand basics of IT systems, perhaps they need to know about the storage, about servers, how they're configured, maybe to a high level overview, but they also have to understand the business. So these are people that are going to be talking with the business guys, talking business language and simplifying your tech talk to a more business-centric talk. These could be people who actually sell the IT solutions, the IT products, the IT ideas and strategies to the business themselves. Somebody in the board, your CEO, for example, may not be very technically savvy or may not understand enough about what IT needs to do. So a business analyst could be that intermediate point where they talk about the processes, they talk about the business operations to the board, the directors, the CEO, about what this will bring, what benefit will this bring, this IT solution bring to their overall company structure. You've then got an IT sales or account manager or pre-sales sort of folks. People who have got a good enough technical understanding of certain products or a wide variety of products where they now go out and sell the products. Go and get business. Go and get sales for their IT solution, whether if it's websites, programming, whether they're going out and selling a storage solution to a company, whether they're going out and building some servers for an external company. You need somebody to go and sell that to somebody. A pre-sales person needs to have a good enough understanding of the products so that when they're trying to sell to the end user, to an external company, a third-party user, they have all the questions that may be asked of them, they will be able to answer well enough. If they don't, they can then refer it obviously to a more technical person, but a pre-sales, sales sort of person should have a good enough understanding of the products in IT that they are selling to be able to make the sales that will benefit the company. Project managers are an integral part in any organization that deal with IT. So if we want to deal with architecture, right, and developing software and things like that, we're really talking about two different things. We're talking about BAU and we're talking about projects. BAU, which is business as usual. What do you need to do to just keep the lights on? This is day-to-day maintenance of the stuff, creating some basic software, making sure that everything's patched, everything is running, it's all running on the latest software, the firmware, everything's just doing what it needs to be doing. This is all considered BAU activity, business as usual, and day-to-day sort of work. Outside of BAU is what you'd have projects. So you'd have technical people, developers working on projects that are outside of BAU, developing new solutions, right? If I've got a SAN, which is a storage area network already configured, people who are working on that, making sure that it's up and running, making sure that the disks are replaced, configuring the RAID on an existing system would be BAU. In the case where that needs to get upgraded and I need to buy a brand new SAN and migrate everything from the old SAN to the new SAN, that would fall under a project, for example. If I want to build a new server environment, that would maybe fall under a project. So this is billed differently. So if you're working, say, for a company that deals with costings and it needs to be billed separately to business as usual, a project can be done separately, a separate piece of work, a separate piece of contractual work. You can also go out and sell this to a company, say, look, I want to, this is what we're providing, this is our business case, this is our project plan. You sell that. Now, the person who's responsible for looking after the project team, making sure that the project starts from A and finishes on Z or Z, is a project manager. The person who's going to be writing all the reports, making sure that they're communicating with the business, with the technical people, that making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, sending regular updates, setting up meetings, right? That is the role of a project manager. It is quite complex. You can get certified in a lot of the project management sphere. For example, your Prince architecture is one great project management tool, Prince 2, for understanding the processes of a project. What are the project life cycles? What are the stages of a project, and delivering that final product to your customer. IT architecture. We're talking about enterprise architects, system solutions architects. There are various types of architects around, but these are people who are responsible for the overall design of a network. We're talking about high level security, setting up the standards of the entire architecture. Okay, so if I want to purchase a new storage solution, the architects may need to verify that to make sure that it fits within their plan, that they don't see any concerns, make suggestions that perhaps this other storage solution may be better because of X, Y, Z. Various things that an architect will do. They could be responsible for setting up the firewall context. What do we want to, where do we want our certain system to be configured? How do we want to segregate our system? Configuring of the architecture design of VLANs. Providing solutions for software. Thinking big picture. What are we talking about when it comes to architectural design? So most of these departments may end up having a manager above it. So if we're talking about a systems administrator or a storage, you may have like an admin that looks after these guys. You may have a network manager, a manager above all these guys. You may have a network manager. So if you're working in a large business, you could have multiple network guys. They all could report to one central head of networking or networking lead or networking manager or one of those sort of spheres. So each of these departments could have their own manager. So you could have a development manager, an IT manager for general IT, an infrastructure manager for looking after your technical teams, those sort of things. Above that, we then go into the sphere of director. These are people who are much higher up in the food chain, IT directors, looking at CIO, CTO, Chief Information Officer, Chief Technology Officer. Directors at the very top, perhaps they are board members. They are the ones who will report to the CEO on all things IT, on high level IT decisions, costings, purchasings, making sure that they sign off on certain policies, things of those nature. So a CIO is a Chief Information Officer. A lot of the time a CIO may not need to be completely technical, but needs to understand IT strategy, where the industry is going, things like that. Chief Technology Officer could do what the CIO is doing, as well as being the technical head as well. So a technical officer, a Chief Technical Officer, generally will have a technical background and that have moved into that CTO sort of space and have a very good technical backbone to everything. A CIO may have more of a business background with a general understanding of IT and strategy, but may also have technical roles as well. So CIO and CTO can be interchangeable. Sometimes they're the same person and it's just a title differentiation, but sometimes they're more defined depending on the size of your company as well. So that is a general overview of a number of IT roles. Hopefully that's given you a bit more of an understanding of where you may want to head, and maybe just clears up some confusion as to what IT is responsible for. What are the different teams in IT? What are the different individuals in an IT department responsible for? So as I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of different areas to move into in IT if you are interested. And knowing where to structure and position yourself to get to where you want to go within your IT professional career. So if you found that video helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel Digital by Computing, just on the button there for more videos.